YouTubers, gamers, and moviegoers, what's going on, guys? I'm the Messiah, this is Messiah Entertainment, and today we are reviewing All Eyez On Me, guys. This is the rap biopic of the legendary rapper Tupac Shakur, starring Demetrius Shipp Jr. in what's his first major acting role. It's directed by Benny Boom, produced by LT Hutton, and I'm a big Tupac fan, and I've been following the trailers pretty closely, waiting to see how this was going to turn out. I like some trailers better than others, to put it lightly, but let's start off with the things I did like about the movie. Now, one of the things I was a little iffy about was whether or not Demetrius Shipp Jr. could handle this role. You know, it's his first acting role, and this is a pretty big role to fill. So I was a little unsure of it. Plus, from what I saw in the trailers, I wasn't too ecstatic about seeing him in the movie. But I gotta say, walking out of it, he did pretty much hold it down. I thought he did a pretty solid job. There are a few times where you're like, okay, he's really embodying what I think Tupac would be like at this time. So, you know, I really felt like he did a pretty good job on that. So a lot of the other actors, like Cat Graham, did a pretty solid job. The guy who plays Suge Knight, I think, was probably one of the best. In fact, I think he did better than the one from Straight Outta Compton did. This guy just has a certain presence and you know, demeanor about him that just kind of really fits for the role. Janae Guerrera from The Walking Dead, she does a great job as Tupac's mother. I gotta say, the lead actors and actresses were all pretty good. It's the side characters that really kind of lacked. Tupac has a sister in this movie. All her lines were stiff. It looked like they got some person off the street and just said, say these lines for us real quick. There's other characters that represent, you know, like rappers from the past. Like there's a person playing Dr. Dre, there's a person playing Snoop Dogg, the Dog Pound. Those people, they needed to work a lot more on the casting. The guy who plays Snoop Dogg looked, I personally gotta say, he looked ridiculous. It didn't look like Snoop Dogg at all. He just kind of looked like a clown. In fact, I'm not sure if this is confirmed, but I am 99% sure they had the actual Snoop Dogg re-record his lines over the actor portraying him in the movie, because that person's the voice just did not match the face. It was too much like Snoop Dogg. Unless they got an amazing Snoop Dogg impersonator, and that's why they casted this guy, they re-recorded his lines and did some ADR, because it didn't flow. It didn't match up. It felt very, very weird. I mean, even for the leads, I'm not saying they didn't do a good job in this movie. I'm just saying I don't know if these were the best choices out of everyone in the world that you could have picked. I mean, I feel like there has to be some people who were just good Tupac impersonators that might have done a slightly better job than Demetrius Shipp Jr. or whatever. You know, I'm just saying, I don't know. Maybe they could have gotten the guy from Straight Outta Compton who was in there for like 5 minutes. I don't know. I just feel like they might have been able to get somebody a little bit better. It seems like they casted more so for how the person facially looks compared to their like real life counterpart, as opposed to like their acting ability, which it was a bit of a disappointment for me. It's something I even said in the trailer. I was like, he looks very much like Tupac. I'm not sure if he really feels a lot like Tupac or can act to that level. And like I said, on some side characters, they did terrible casting. There was one character who played Dr. Dre, and he was in there for like 5 seconds, but he looked nothing like Dr. Dre. They actually had to say, oh, Dr. Dre, so that you would know, okay, that's Dr. Dre, because other than that, you wouldn't have understood. But anyway, let's move away from the characters. Let's see, how was the story? How did that work? How did the execution of his life actually work on the big screen? I don't know. Now listen, guys, I'm gonna get into some spoilers right here, so if you haven't seen the movie yet, I'd recommend go seeing it first and then come back to here, or if you don't care, just sit on in. But spoilers. So basically what the movie does is it starts off when he's in prison, after he goes to jail, and he's during this interview going back and retelling his life and certain aspects of his life. So the movie, or at least the first 3/4 of it, jumps back and forth between interview, flashback, interview, flashback, interview, flashback. Now, after watching the entire film, I gotta say, the interview sections were 110% unnecessary. Not only do I not know the individual who was interviewing him and why they emphasized on that character so much, he ended up being pretty useless. I don't understand why they even used it in the first place, because they dropped off the idea of this interview concept 3/4 of the way through the movie, because in the timeline of the movie, the flashbacks catch up to the modern day. So with the last fourth of the movie, it's like there is no interview section. So it makes the question, why did you even do it in the first place? What was the point? In fact, during the early parts of the interview section, what they do is he'll tell you something and then they'll reenact it. What's the point of even having him do that if they're going to show us the whole thing anyway? Why even have him tell us this? There was no real reason to have the interview section. It just took up a lot of unnecessary space. Now, it goes from his early life. It actually starts off with his mother, and then it moves on past his childhood all the way up until his death. Now, the childhood section, which I think personally, or his upbringing, that was the most important part for us to understand and really sympathize and really understand where he got his personality and why he was who he was. That section of the movie is breezed over so quickly. They breeze over it so quickly. They just run right through it. It's like a quick flashback, and then he'll start talking again in the future. Quick flashback, talk about it again in the future. Quick flashback, talk again in the future. It's these years, these formative years while he's in Harlem, New York, that I really wanted to see more of. And because they fast-tracked that so much, you weren't really able to get into the character, and that really hurt, I think, the rest of the entire film. There's certain things like his relationship to Jada Pinkett that just didn't work in the end because you didn't feel connected to them. There's only like, what, 2, maybe 3 quick scenes where they're together, and it's like at the end there's some kind of thing that's supposed to be happening for emotional impact, and it's like, what are you talking about? That nobody cares. Now, watching the reenactment of certain portions of his life, like when he's on stage at a certain show for the Digital Underground, or when he's doing a certain music video, that can be cool at times, or when he's shooting Juice, that can be good for a portion of the movie, but they spend way too much time. They will show the entire Digital Underground song, the Humpty Dumpty one. They will show the entire thing of Tupac dancing on stage in the background. They will show the entire, well, not the entirety, but they'll show way too much of Tupac shooting the I Get Around video. They'll show way too much concert footage, way too much studio time footage, way too much performance footage that just, it just detracts from the movie. It doesn't have anything to do with the storyline. It doesn't progress it in any way. It's just a performance. I know Benny Boom has his origins as a music video director, but it just spent way too much time and it distracted from the rest of the movie, and it took away from the chance to use that extra filler time to build up the character, to perhaps put more time into the childhood section that just was blazed over, because there's like a bunch of different concerts that are shown, and he does the entire song. Sometimes he even does 2 songs. It's like nothing in there actually progresses the story. In Straight Outta Compton, there were concert scenes, there were studio time scenes, there were things like that. However, they always seemed to push the story along. When they were on stage performing Dope Man, Paul Giamatti at the same time was also looking for a partner for them so that they could get their music done. It also shows how big they're getting compared to before, when they were just doing some small town thing. They were really gaining a lot of traction. The studio time when they were recording F the Police, it helps tell the rest of the story. It has an impact on the rest of the story. This one just seemed like it just did it for the sake of doing it. It looked like it's something that would be cool to shoot, showing Snoop Dogg and Tupac shooting that song, America's Most Wanted. It was unnecessary. It distracted from the plot. There's a while where Tupac first gets to California, where he first gets to Oakland, and they breeze over it again so quickly that you're not able to get into the character and why he is Tupac. There's a scene later on where, Tupac, I guess, is notorious for his incredible work ethic and why he wanted to push everything out so quickly. He even says in the movie, tomorrow's not promised to any man, but they don't explain why he feels like that. And thus, when he just out the blue starts yelling at the producer to start doing the track this way, you just kind of look like, what the hell is wrong with him? He kind of seems like a jerk. It doesn't make any sense as to why he feels like his time is limited, why he feels this way. It doesn't make any sense to us. You miss out on the personality and the true root of why the character is the way that he is. You don't understand anything about him by the end of the movie. Instead, you feel more like you just kind of watched a video showing you just basic events that it happened. You know what I mean? Like, there is some weird editing here. Like, so I remember there's this one scene where it just cuts to one shot, like a beach or something, and then it cuts away from the beach, and it's like the beach had no bearing on it. It was just a small gripe that I had. And then the movie starts off with him on stage, like that behind shot where you know, he's standing in front of the spotlight and everybody's shining his name, and it'll show All Eyes on Me, and then it cuts right back to the prison, and then it goes back to you know, when he's a child, and it was just like way too much going back and forth. Just start off in the prison. You know what I mean? You don't have to do all that. Just start off on the prison. You know, it'd make things a lot easier. And that kind of goes back to the unnecessary interviews. I mean, if you're just gonna go back and forth like that, just don't show us it at all. Just show us the actual action of it happening. You don't have to show this, do this little thing with the interview. It didn't help the movie. A lot of weird slow motion shots in here as well. The movie's also kind of unfocused. It goes on to a lot of unnecessary plot details that you really just don't need to understand the story of Tupac. It focuses on so many other little minute things that it's just like, by the end of the movie, again, why don't I feel as connected to the character as I should have? The movie failed at making me sympathize with Tupac, with making him seem more human than just this legendary rap figure. You know what I mean? It seemed like almost the filmmakers were kind of caught up in the fact that he was this legendary rapper, and that, you know, they were trying to show, you know, how legendary this guy was, you know, and I even said that in the trailer. The way the trailers look, as if they're trying to build him up to be this super bigger than life guy, and it's like, no, that's not what the movie's supposed to do. It's supposed to humanize him, make us feel like, oh, he's just a regular person. You know what I mean? Oh, that's just Tupac, who happened to have a lot of strong opinions about things and was a great rapper and this, that, and the other thing. You know what I mean? It didn't make me feel like that. It just kind of made me feel like I just watched a video detailing some events that happened to Tupac. It didn't make me feel like I knew the character. Also, the movie ends way too abruptly. You know, spoiler alert, he dies. But after he dies, there's nothing else. He just kind of dies on the street, and then it cuts to, you know, black screen. They throw some words up on the screen about his accomplishments, and then we play out a song at the end of Tupac's. And it's like, what about, how does his mother feel about this? How does his girlfriend that he left in the hotel not too long ago feel about this? How do the other rappers like Snoop Dogg, who's in the movie, how do they feel about this? How does the world feel about this? Remember in Straight Outta Compton when Eazy-E died? Remember they had the, even some of it was just stock footage of just of the world, you know, actually mourning in real life Eazy-E, and then they cut to like Dr. Dre and Ice Cube and how they felt about it. You know what I mean? Like it showed the repercussions of his death. The Biggie Smalls movie, it showed the funeral. It showed how the mom felt, which is super important. It showed how his friends felt. It showed how the world felt when they're all dancing on the street as the car passes by. It shows how everybody felt, and that wasn't done here. It just kind of, like, it just wraps up. You know what I mean? A bunch of loose plot threads of, you know, people just mourning, and you really don't feel like you're in the world of the character. You don't feel like you really, I guess, care that he died. You know what I mean? Even though you know he's gonna die, it should feel heart-wrenching when he does. And honestly, I didn't feel connected enough to him to really care as much as I think I should have. Of course, it's sad to see somebody die on screen, but it's like, you know, it should have had a more emotional impact. I was surprised I didn't add that clip of Biggie talking about Pac when he died. You know what I mean? Remember, he gives his interview about how he was surprised. You know, he heard Pac had gotten shot before, so he thought he was going to be fine.
Pac is a strong dude, yo. I know Duke, you know what I'm saying? Right. He real strong. So when they was like, he got shot, I was just more like, again? You know what I'm saying? He always getting shot or shot at. He gonna pull through this one again, make a few records about it, and it's gonna be over. You know what I'm saying? But when he died, I was just like, whoa.
But you know, he was surprised to figure it out. But they just kind of cut it so quickly that it's like, what happened? Did they run out of budget? I mean, come on. It was just so weird. So, you know, I wasn't really impressed by it. Also, before I forget, I gotta say this, and listen, I understand in other movies like Straight Outta Compton, which I think is awesome, I think it's one of my favorite movies of all time, Straight Outta Compton, I understand there were some historical discrepancies in that film as well. However, this movie has been called out many times for just blatantly fucking lying to the audience. Jada Pinkett came out and said none of the stuff that happened in the movie actually happened in real life, which begs the question, why did you do the movie like that? It wasn't like she was a side character. You know what I mean? In Straight Outta Compton, there were some discrepancies about some of the things that happened, but most of those came from side characters. You know, oh, I should have been over here. Oh, I didn't really say that. But they didn't have that much of a bearing on the full story. You know what I mean? And stuff that did have a bearing on the full story that could be disputed, it's stuff that other people would probably be making up too because they weren't with Eazy-E. And Eazy-E's dead, so we can't really tell what exactly he thought in a car late at night alone while he looked at a picture of Dr. Dre. Obviously the filmmakers had to kind of, you know, put some stuff there and kind of do it for the sake of the story, but he didn't take the step of just blatantly lying against somebody who's alive. And that's what this movie does. And, you know, it's not like that relationship in the movie with Jada Pinkett and Tupac really had that much emotional impact anyway. So I don't understand why they couldn't have done something much better. I'm sure if they had done interviews with her, if they had asked her how their relationship actually was, they could have gotten something that was a lot more emotionally impactful. In fact, that would have been even better if they had added more into their relationship that was a lot more true to life. And then when he dies, have Jada Pinkett break down. Because I can swear to God there's an interview where Jada Pinkett talks about when she found out Tupac died. You know what I mean? I know that for a fact. There's like a bunch of interviews where a bunch of different celebrities talk about where they were when Tupac died. I know for a fact she was on there.
My mother knocks on the hotel door. Will opens the door. Soon as I see her face, I knew he was gone.
So I don't understand why that wasn't taken in any degree and used in the film. It's like it didn't do anything to help the movie, so I don't know why they didn't do it. I think in the end of the day, it hurt the movie that they didn't do these kind of interviews and really got a real feeling of Tupac, because at the end of the day, this does kind of feel artificial. You know what I mean? When I saw Straight Outta Compton, I was like, wow, I really feel like I know the people who were part of NWA. I feel like I know them. I don't feel like that with this movie. It feels very artificial. I wouldn't say this was a Lifetime kind of feeling movie because of the production value. In terms of writing, in terms of direction, I would have to say in a way sort of yes. Maybe more of something you would see, you know, come on BET. I don't think this was deserving of a full theatrical release. You know, it makes me really wonder, like, what was John Singleton's original vision? Because that was one of the controversies too. John Singleton was originally supposed to direct, then he left the project due to creative differences. Him and LT Hunt and Benny Boom and the other people on this project have been going back and forth with each other on radio interviews. You know, I just really wonder, they were really like slandering his vision and his ideas for the movie, but it really makes me think, would his have been better? Because this one didn't do it. This one was, I can't say it was a horrible movie, but out of all the rap biopics that have come out in the past few years, talking about Notorious, talking about Straight Outta Compton, this is definitely probably one of the worst. And I mean theatrically, you know, of course there's like that Aaliyah one that was nonsense. It's not as bad as that, but it's definitely not on the level of Notorious or Straight Outta Compton. For something that's based off of Tupac, one of the most legendary rappers of all time, this is a disappointment. This is a disappointment. I'm not gonna pretend I know everything about the guy, but I mean, from what I saw with Straight Outta Compton and what I saw with Notorious, what I've seen with other good rap biopics, and just biopics in general, this is a huge disappointment. It's a letdown. It has a lot of problems on just the filmmaking level, not even just like you know, it's not accurate. It's like there's things I didn't like about it other than that. You know what I mean? So, I don't know. I personally feel like they could have done a lot better. I feel like it's weird now too, because in order for somebody else like John Singleton or something to make their own Tupac biopic, they may have to wait a few years. You know, it'd feel kind of weird if they just threw up another one that tried to do the same exact thing. So I don't know how they're gonna have to handle that. They could do it sort of like they did the Steve Jobs one. Remember there was the first one with Ashton Kutcher that came out like 2013, and then 2 years later they had the one with Aaron Sorkin wrote it, and then Danny Boyle directed it, and Michael Fassbender starred in it. That was way better. You know, I don't know if they'll try something like that, if somebody else is going to try to take on the role. I don't think I would like to see these guys, that production team, take on any more rap biopics, because I heard they were planning on helping Daz Dillinger make a Dog Pound movie. They wanted to make a Ruthless, an Aftermath, a Death Row movie, and do a bunch of different ones, and then kind of come together like an Avengers sort of thing. I don't think I want them to do that. I don't think they're the right production team to do that. I feel like they didn't prove themselves with this one. So, unfortunately, I was very disappointed with this. I hate to say I told you so, because I saw the trailers and I was cautiously optimistic about them. You know, some people were like, oh man, this thing is amazing, just be happy for it. And I was like, I don't know, the trailers just seem kind of weird to me. I'm not 100% buying into this, and it turns out, you know, I wasn't 100% into this movie. Wasn't complete garbage. If you're a huge fan, you might still enjoy it, but I don't think this is a shining example of what a biopic should be. So that's just my opinion. I'm sure you guys got your own. Let me know in the comment section down below. What did you guys think of All Eyez On Me? Did you love it? Did you hate it? As always, you guys can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Twitch. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe, guys. Please check me out on my other channel, Directors JXM. We got cool skits and short films for you guys, including To Kill a Hero, short superhero web series I did not too long ago. I just run a channel with my boy Johnny Lee. He has his own channel on JXB Entertainment. Be sure to check that out. Anyway, that's it for today, guys. I'm Messiah. This is Messiah Entertainment. See you guys next time. Peace.